Welcome to Magical Moments for that ease and that betterment in your life, which, of course, my dears, you deserve. You so deserve it. And I'm your host, Elena Chapman. Today, we have a magical nugget, like we always do. And I thought instead of, giving you that finger and saying you've got to do it, the first finger, pointing to you and saying you got to do it, not any other finger, I would really like to tell you a little quick story. One day, my son, my youngest, and I were in the car. Now, my son finds it at 16 years old the most fun thing in the world to argue with me. He adores it. I really think he should be a lawyer, but he doesn't want to be. He just wants to argue with his mom. So he'll find really crazy topics to argue about and try to bait me. Well, anyway, he was in the car and he was kind of quiet and he's listening to this podcast or whatever it was. But the one thing I noticed, because I could hear it, was that they were great. They were stating all the problems that the world is going into. They were stating how everything's being dissolved before our eyes and there's no stable balance anywhere. Okay, so fine. So at the very end, or what I didn't know it was the end, but it kind of stopped. And I looked at him and I said, well, wait a minute. I said, now what? And he goes, what do you mean? I said, well, they just tore down everything. But then they didn't build anything from it. And he goes, well, Mom, no. I said, but honey, you don't get it. Anybody can tear something down. It's a vibrational thought process. And you can tear it down, but guess what? You just end up tearing down and accusing people of being wrong or putting people in boxes because they're wrong. You can destruct. Gosh, there are people that just buy businesses and destroy them for money. But where the real visionary comes in, where the person who is always going to rise to a place of goodness in their lives, in society, in fact, change societies with their service, are the people who don't just tear down, but see how to better it. And that's a whole different vibration. In fact, it is a bigger vibration because it opens our minds to possibility. When you are in a destroying mode, you're in a destroying mindset. It's two polar opposites. I said, so you're listening to these shows and then you're sour about everything in your whole life. And of course, then he wants to argue with me because he's 16. But I'm bringing it to you because we are dealing with a lot right now. Everyone is. And I'm not going to tell you how to process it because everybody has their own unique way to process it. If you want to know what I do, I listen to music, I dance, I go in the car, I don't drive on the highway because everybody else is processing too, but I go somewhere in nature, I look at the mountains, I look at the water, I take pictures, I talk to the birds, I process my thoughts. If it's really bad, I turn on a movie that's going to make me cry so I can get it out. That's me. That's always been my personal style. What's yours? But what we need to do is process and then wake up to possibilities in our lives. And when you do that, if everyone does that, then before you know it, there'll be possibilities on a bigger level because it's vibrational. Isn't that cool? Talking about cool little miracles, I have an incredible guest today. He is very fascinating. You are going to be incredibly fascinated because I just think he has a system here, an ancient system that can help to better us. Another betterment. I love it. His name is Nate Zeleznick, and he will correct me if I did that wrong. He's the president and co-founder of Vibravision, which merges ancient energetic martial arts with modern science and training technology to offer the most advanced personal energy management system on the planet. This stuff is really cool. I spoke with him for an hour, and I was I was just flabbergasted. Vibravision is the next stage of personal evolution. Over the past 20 years, plus years, he has mastered the energetic arts, co-founded the only U.S. school allowed to train these capabilities. That's interesting. Has received validation from medical and scientific professionals, and he has established the Vibravision Foundation, which teaches blind people to energetically sense their surroundings as if they had sight. He is a sought-after speaker, trainer, and leader in spiritual community. Yes, he does work with blind, but let me tell you, the things he can teach I'm going to let him tell you. It is amazing. Hello, Nate. I want to bring you on. How are you?
Good morning. I am doing so well, and hello to everyone out there listening.
We have a wonderful audience. They are very, very, they are always thinking. They're always sending in questions, and they really do process things really well. So that's why I was really excited to bring you, because this is something a little bit different. In fact, not just a little bit, a lot different. So the first thing I want to do is I want to you talk about with blind people, but when I was talking to you on the phone, this was much more.
Oh, without a doubt. Well, the fact is that every one of us is blind in some way. And
True.
That was a real big epiphany for us, where the way that we got started with this is we brought over a team of people from Indonesia who used this, including some blind people that we had seen on a VHS tape. And we just, my brother and I were the co-founders. We brought this art, this technology, this human technology to America 23 years ago. But we were very skeptical, and so we wanted to see it for ourselves because, come on, you're teaching blind people how to use the Force and see like Jedis? Come on. But there was something inside my soul that told me this is legitimate, and something was driving me. I had what I call a synchrodestiny. So, people have synchronicities, and they're like, nothing happens by accident, and that's true. But sometimes we have a synchrodestiny, which things align, they align to the point where it changes our entire life. And that happened with me, for me. But I was very skeptical about the ability to see without your eyes, and so I brought a team over and sponsored them for the first demonstrations in the United States. And it turns out that this is from one of the largest martial arts organizations in the world that you've never heard of, because they had kept this a secret within Indonesia for close to 500 years. They only allowed Indonesian citizens outside the royal family of Central Java to learn it since 1963. But before that, it was only for the king and his heirs for 400 years. And so when I saw this and I got to see blind people, their eyes, they're white. There's no pupil, no iris. It's exactly what you think of when you think of blindness. And they were able to drive my car. They were able to cook for us. They were able to read print off of a paper using some sense vibrationally.
They could read a paper.
Absolutely.
Being totally blind.
Mm-hmm. And that, over in Indonesia, these people were on the TV a lot back in the day and proving this. But it was my brother and I, we were just, they had never trained a non-Indonesian before. It was forbidden. So we just wanted to be their liaisons, if you will, and help them get their foot in the door here, because we saw a need where there are close to 12 million blind people in the United States. And here's a technology that could be used alongside using a cane, using a dog, not as a replacement. It's a complementary non-visual skill, just to be clear about that. And we really wanted to help them because here was a method, not just you have to be born special, but an actual tried and true method to help us unlock different perceptions in a way that nothing else that we'd ever seen could do. And so when they came over to Utah and we had them do demonstrations here, we knew. We knew that we were going to devote our entire life to this because of its potential impact to help humanity. So now we're in America, so it's a pretty skeptical place. And so we wanted to make sure,
It
right?
is. It is.
But at the same time, some people will believe anything. And that's a problem. So because we didn't want to be in the woo-woo crowd where we're trying to, people would look and they'd say, oh, this is snake oil. And the fact is,
I understand.
It's a natural human ability that everybody has, but it's become dormant in us. And with Vibravision, This is a technique, and it's a very, very precise method to help unlock these different perceptions in us. And, that's the cool thing is we don't know what superpower somebody's going to have. Maybe it's seeing without their eyes. Maybe it's amazing intuition that they can actually trust and use, and anything from what lane to be in when they're driving to how to make multi-million-dollar deals. I mean, we have people use it for all kinds of things. Or maybe it's clairaudience and they hear guidance. Or maybe some of our people develop remote viewing and they're actually able to reliably.
Yeah. Stephen A. Hawking.
Thousands of miles away.
Yeah. Stephen A. Hawkins was in the government. He was a physicist who actually worked with the government on remote viewing to help solve crimes, to help solve CIA operations. I mean, remote viewing is a very, very well known in the government. What I want to ask you is, okay, lots of times we talk about intuition. We talk about, that inner knowing. We talk about, Florence Neville in the late 1900s. She talked about the super God consciousness, that inner part of us. What you're talking about, opening this up in a way that explores all our psychic gifts, all our powers, our healing, our giving sight, or also, making that $1 million deal, like you said. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like us, Forrest Gump, like the box of chocolates. We just don't ever know what we're going to get because, some people are naturally gifted at music. Other people, it might be visual arts, and other people, it might be memory or math. And we just have a natural proclivity for that. And so that's the cool thing about Vibravision is no matter what your gift is, this is going to help unlock it in a way that is undeniable, but it's also reproducible. And that's an important thing because otherwise it's got to be an epiphany from God or, something falls off the Empire State Building, hits you in the head and unlocks this or kills you, but hopefully unlocks it. But this is something where people can, on a daily basis, they can supercharge their energy, they can supercharge their immune system. It's a breathwork technique that we've had so many breathwork instructors and masters come to us, and they've never experienced anything like it. It is truly.
Well, yeah, because you are using the breath as a tool to open something, and they're using the breath as a tool to be the breath, to calm down and stay centered. I mean, it's two different goals at first. So, yeah, they would be amazed by you. Can you I would love to, now you've done the system. What did you find that it did for you?
Okay, so what I found a couple different things. I had always been interested in energy work ever since I started having spontaneous out-of-body experiences when I was an early teenager or young teenager. And so for me, to be able to project my consciousness was one thing. To be able to, in 5 minutes or less, open and unlock all of the different energy chakras and centers in my body was another one. Being able to access my pineal gland and my third eye reliably and then connect to source. And a lot of people talk about that in a woo-woo way, but to actually be able to do it is a totally different thing that's really indescribable. And so a lot of people come to us just for that because once you unlock it, it's invaluable and you can use it anytime in your entire existence until you're no longer physical.
Okay, I'm going to bring you in. I know what you're talking about, and remote viewing for folks who don't understand what that is, and leaving your consciousness. It is actually used. A lot of people, they will be able to close their eyes and they can actually go to a specific room. And in the CIA, basically, they were using it with Stephen A. Hawkins. They would get the person totally relaxed, and then he would say, okay, can you see this room? And then they would go to that room. They could describe where an enemy was exactly. They could describe where, a lost child exactly. They could bring their consciousness to that point that is unmistakable, that is where it is. And it's really amazing the things we can do with our mind. And is it woo-woo? No, not really. I mean, it's the power of your mind that we have let sleep. And now we are starting to wake it up. Some other things, there's a ton. I've done remote viewing. I once did it, and I went home to see my kids. And then when I went home, I said, hey, were you guys watching that show I told you not to watch? And they said, how'd you know? How'd you know that, Mom? Because I did remote viewing. It's one of the first things I learned. That's incredible. So I want to kind of bring it, I'm trying to make it very, so people really get this. And I don't know, have you watched that anime show? I know this sounds so funny, but it really is interesting because people they're craving this. There's an anime calling Hunter x Hunter. And it's a really interesting, it's a very popular anime show, Nate. And it has, what they're doing is they're building up what they call their nen. And they have all these Asian names and everything of the different levels of nen that draws within their power to be that extraordinary person and bring out. And they all have gifts within that nen. Maybe they're a projector, maybe they're a transmuter, maybe it sounds, I mean, for people, it's kind of unlocking those inner gifts in you just the same way. Not that it's going to be like the cartoon, but it's unpacking something that you have within you that you can do, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You should watch that. It is a fascinating show. I'm kind of hooked.
I wrote it down.
Yeah, my son got me on it. I actually heard it when I was doing a book signing. Another 20-year-old said it, and I went home. I said, I'm going to go home and say it to my son like I know what I'm talking about.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, give it a watch. It's really cool what they can do. And so tell me with this. Now, you said they were using it in the highest service in Indonesia under the kings and the queens and everything else. And so what did it bring forward for them particularly?
Well, this was originally, it is derived from a martial art called Merpati Putih. Now, for people I know that's
Putih.
But Merpati Putih means white dove in the Indonesian language.
Oh gosh, I like that.
That's actually one thing that really attracted me to it because I've been involved in martial arts for a long time, but a lot of the time the avatar for martial art is like the red dragon or the black scorpion or something kind of aggressive.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, you're learning how to kick people in the face. So there's some aggression there, kind of, so. Merpati Putih consists of 5 different elements, which is very unique in the martial arts. Most martial arts, you've got kicking and punching, you've got the forms, you've got the fighting, maybe some weapon work. Very rarely do you have internal healing, and very rarely do you have energy development. Not in America. A lot of times in America, that's shunned, kind of. And then we have a 5th aspect. So we have fighting, we have forms, we have energy development, we have energy healing. And the 5th one is the multi-sensory development discipline called Vibravision. And it was originally designed for the king and his palace staff to be able to fight blindfolded and to perceive things in, Indonesia is an archipelago of 13,000 islands and warring tribes for thousands of years going to other islands, taking over their kingdom. So this was developed in order to protect the kingdom. And so now, it's still a martial art. It's still one of the largest martial arts and one of the most beautiful martial arts that people will see. So if you get a chance out there to see Merpati Putih, just type it in on YouTube. You're going to find plenty about it. And the thing is, though, that the Vibravision skill, being so unique, it's actually used by Indonesia's most elite commando paratroopers. The most elite soldiers who use Vibravision for search and rescue and live combat, and they have for decades. It's a part of their training. And because it's so effective. So it's not just for blind people. They use it for military application. They're modern day. And many of the people who practice Merpati Putih do that when they become senior instructors. But that's something we do that they don't do.
It's almost like
don't train non-Indonesian.
It's almost like you become like a cat or a person with such high sensitivity. I mean, that you could anything around you are aware of. It's like a cat, like a cougar out in the hunting. You know how they're so anything that goes off, they know. They just know everything around them. It's almost they naturally, because of survival, they tap into a lot of this. It's amazing. We have gotten docile. And we become followers in so many ways and conforming and thinking somebody else has our answers. And so it has put that to sleep in us. But yeah, we can access that. I mean, that is incredible. And learning how to have that, just that heightened awareness on everything around you, and that you can foresee. You are so tapped into your inner knowing, what I call your soul wisdom. You are so into that you just can't. I mean, that's a new way of living, right? I mean, that's how I do live, actually.
Well, and just to put all the empaths at ease out there, we also teach people how to shield their energy so that they're not being bombarded by the thoughts and emotions and energies of other people. I mean, I know some people that they're like, I can barely go out in public because other people's energy affects me so much.
Yeah.
And so being able to be sovereign in your energy.
Yes, you have to be sovereign. Yeah. And that's part of it, because otherwise you get sensory overload. Absolutely. Very cool. So can you give us like a little breath work, kind of a beginner exercise? Can I allow you to do that?
Well, because this is so specific, we don't really have enough time today, but I do have a free gift for everybody we can talk about at the end. Everybody has the opportunity to go right now and try it for themselves.
That's very cool.
Amazing.
That is very cool. So how have you seen this change your life in just the practice, not in the company, but in your life, just the practice?
Yeah, so I love that question. So there are so many different things that it's hard to put my finger on, just to say 5. But if I were going to list out a couple, I would say the first thing is the saying, know thyself. There is no more important person that you know in your life and actually get to know deeply than your own self. But so many of us are at the effect of our environment instead of being at the effect of ourselves.
Right.
And
that's a very good point.
Myself and learning how to actually meditate, because a lot of people are like, yeah, I meditate for 5 minutes a day. No. You can't really meditate for 5 minutes a day.
Well, you can, but different goals, different goals.
Not really the same.
Yeah.
As far as dropping into the low theta and the low, low alpha things, that does take a little bit of extra time. And so learning how to have a reliable meditation method to calm my central nervous system down, to get into parasympathetic dominance. I'm sorry if I'm nerding out on everybody.
No, that's good. That's good.
We've been proving this in the scientific and medical realm for the past 20 years, so we want people to know that this actually has a basis in science, that we can actually quantify a lot of these things and say, oh, this is why this works. And the most important thing is that people get results, right? So first of all, I should say next, my ability to expand my perception. And so, like I said, I had been having spontaneous out-of-body experiences and studying them since I was a teenager, but being able to get into that space where I could more reliably, not all the time, but more reliably transfer my awareness and my consciousness somewhere else. That is a sense of freedom that you just can't actually describe. Being able to use my energy to help heal myself faster.
Yeah, me too.
Most people heal in half the time, according to the doctors, if they have a surgery or a broken bone from what we do. And then also being able to heal other people is such a blessing and such a gift. And then, of course, there is the biggest heart-gasm, if you will. I'm going to put it that way.
Heart-gasm.
Nothing sexual about it, but it is an explosion of love. When you work with a blind person who, after a decade, is crying, and you ask them, what's wrong? And they say, I can see my hands.
Yeah.
I can see that color, that beanbag over there. And you start say a color beanbag, and they start identifying those colors correctly, and they have their eyes that have actually been removed. So they don't have physical sight. There's no possible way, and yet they're still able to do these things. And it is a cracking open of possibility for somebody who has not had the ability to see as we understand it for so long.
Yeah,
so
that's big.
Improved me, not just personally in my own perceptions, but also in my heart. And it's such a rewarding thing to be able to bring this to the world. Yeah, I could not be more honored. I couldn't.
I just love it. So tell me more where we can find out more about you, about this Vibravision, about what it does. Where are you, Nate?
Well, first, I would like people to be able to get that free gift that I
Yes.
talked about, which is a energy work and breath work and energy sensing and a meditation that I lead you right through. And so it is at Vibravision.com. So like you're taking the first part of vibration, Vibra, and then vision.com. And at the bottom, people can opt in and get that gift, and they'll get it right away in their inbox.
And guys, also check out my YouTube channel because we have a lot of videos there that talk a lot about some of these incredible things. Plus, some of the journeys on there, even though they're on YouTube, they actually take you to that theta state very fast so that you can start tapping in to whatever, like Florence said, your God, your supercharger, or your, what I like to call your soul's wisdom, or whatever it is. But it is on YouTube, so check that out too. To be able to know that we are more than we think is a wonderful feeling for so many. You know, it really is, at this time especially. And everyone out there, remember, spirit is love. And so when we come from that higher place in love, always, spirit's right there knocking on the door for you. As always, namaste. I love you all.